Hey guys, good morning. We are back again with Kickin'Cancer Cares. Huge shout out to our old sponsor, Marianne McNally, who is no longer with us. If you guys could continue to keep her family in your prayers, that would be amazing as they're going through a difficult time. And in the meantime, we are looking for a second sponsor. So if you or your business or somebody you know would love to sponsor us, reach out to us. Do you want them to email you or me?
Sure, either way. Either way.
Just shoot me an email, amanda@kslm.news, and we can at least give you all that information and what it may look like.
Yeah. And I do really want to take a time to just honor Marianne. She was a sponsor for
almost 2 years.
Almost 2 full years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard for her to quantify. She told me one time it was hard to quantify how much of what she did as sponsoring this show brought new customers, but she sold houses, you know. So did that come from a lead? She doesn't know. But anyone who does business realizes it's like 7 touches before they find you.
Yeah.
And this was one of those touches. But,
she said she saw a huge increase.
Yeah, but the message meant a lot to her because she had her own battle going on.
Yes, she had her own reason and her why.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And really what happened to her, I think, does kind of weigh in a little bit to Erin's story because she had gone through the breast cancer journey. She had beaten it, she thought. But the weird thing is it came back, but it morphed. So it started as, I believe it was estrogen positive when it started. But then it came back in her bones as triple negative.
Yeah.
And I remember asking her early on, like, how do they know it's not bone cancer? But they could look at the cells and realize those are breast cancer cells inside of your bones.
Right.
But for it to come back as triple negative, which made it even harder to beat, and they tried 9 different ways to get it out of her bones. They couldn't get it out of her bones. Then it moved to her liver and ultimately jumped to her spleen, and she passed away. So, but we appreciated her support.
Oh, she was, regardless of where she was at with her journey, she was just a bright light.
Yeah.
Everywhere she went.
Well, I do want to talk about something that Erin mentioned earlier. She has a little different approach now to medicine after as many years as she did it. And I love your phrase of helping heal the healer.
Yes, me too.
So you mentioned 2 things to me that you do. And I'm just going to tell our listeners right now, if you go to kicking-cancer.org, that's our website, click under resources, and you can type in Erin's name, or you can scroll down a little bit. But she did a whole seminar for us on our website, and basically just, talk to a camera. But she talked about how to reduce stress and how to self-heal, I think was a lot of your topic at that time.
Yeah, how to mitigate stress and its impact on your body, which is one of the things that we can control for ourselves.
So a lot of your practice now is how to reduce stress and how to take time to meditate. Elaborate a little bit now on what you're doing as you heal the healers.
Well, and to kind of follow up on the part 2, one of the reasons behind that new approach was that at age 50, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I had 2 preventive surgeries at 40. I had a preventive mastectomy at 41. I had my ovaries out to decrease my risk of ovarian cancer, plus to decrease my breast cancer risk by another 50%. And despite those changes, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at 50. And so there is this thought about, you can ask yourself, why me? But you can also ask yourself, why not me? And the prevention that I did, I feel like maybe that prevented me from getting metastatic breast cancer. Maybe that bought me several cancer-free years. My sister had 2 diagnoses of breast cancer, one at 33, one at 35. And I made it to 50 without a breast cancer diagnosis, or until I had that diagnosis. So was it easy? It was not. And yet I actually had 2 primary tumors, one that I found myself, and then another one that was found on MRI. And despite having those 2 tumors, they were both stage 1. I had no positive lymph nodes. I had a lumpectomy of both of those spots, and then I had radiation. I didn't have to do chemo. So I think, like, how blessed am I?
Right.
And not only that, when they did the gene testing on the tumors itself, there's a range. I always forget if it starts at 0 to 100 or 1 to 100 on what's your risk of having, distant cancer, metastatic cancer 5 years from now if you do the standard treatment. And my number was a 1.
Oh, wow.
Out of 100.
Wow.
And the nurse practitioner who saw me and gave me those results, she's like, I don't know that I've ever seen a 1 before.
Yeah.
So even I look at it as I dipped my toe in the cancer journey, and there was a lot of other things that I had to deal with that year that I had cancer. My mom was deteriorating from Alzheimer's and had all kinds of additional stressors that year. But I feel blessed that that was my journey, and I didn't have any complications from surgery, which is not always the case. So I feel like I got out of it fairly easy.
Yeah.
And yet it helps me understand, okay, what am I going to do to prevent me from getting cancer for the rest of my life?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where this holistic approach of what do I have control over? I have control over my mindset. Again, when I say why not me, much healthier mindset than why me.
Right.
When I can say, what do I have control over? I can meditate. I can treat my body better by getting better sleep. I can eat healthier. I can exercise and move my body, get rid of stress. I can get therapy if I need it. I can continue working with a coach for my own well-being and improve my relationships because of all that.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I'm not anything close to the person now at age 57 that I was at age 50 when I got diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
The way I manage stress, it's completely different.
So amazing about your journey is my sister, who was diagnosed with breast cancer, her situation inspired Kicking Cancer. She was diagnosed at about age 50, and hers did go metastatic, but it was not, the cancer she had was not conducive to chemotherapy. It was a slow growing but very aggressive tumor. And because of that, she used liquid vitamin C was the treatment to kill the tumor. But then when it went metastatic, she started exercising every day to keep the lymphatic system moving. And then she went to many more plants to get all that processed crap out of her system. Because it was metastatic, it wasn't a case of if it comes back, it's when it comes back, right?
Mm-hmm.
None of us were really ready for the news that when it came back. But she said, this time I'm not starting from scratch.
Right.
I'm starting from experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it came back a third time. And the third time, it was cutaneous, which for the listeners, it just means it's inside of the fibers of your skin. Your outer layer is your dermatology, right? So it wasn't in way deep. It was actually between the outer layer of skin, and it was along the left side of her breast. And they had to cut 6.5 inches this way, 2.5 inches this way, 1/4 inch deep to get that section cut out. And if you go look up cutaneous breast cancer, it's like a 1% to 2% survival rate. It's not a really good statistic on the internet, but Brenda said because of what I have been doing,
Right.
the odds are much better in her favor. And
Yes.
guess what? She still does it every single day in Yuma, Arizona, and she does her walk, and she does everything. She says, now I'm working from experience. So to your point, does it stop the outcome? No, it still came back a third time. It changes your mindset on how you attack it the third
Yeah.
time.
And it also changes your response to stress. And what I've learned, again, being a trauma specialist, being a physician, doing a ton of research, is that we can turn up our cortisol, which does horrible things to your immune system. So when you allow stress to go unmitigated, then it does really bad things to your immune system. And all of us have had cancer cells in our body during our lifetime. And if your immune system is strong enough and gets to it fast enough, then that cancer goes away. It just like a virus or a bacteria. But if our immune system is suppressed, maybe because we're so stressed, maybe because we're not eating healthy, maybe because we're not moving well, or all of those things, then that gives the cancer cells that are going to develop in our body a much higher rate of survival. So can you prevent it 100%? Maybe not. But I know that all of those things we do can certainly mitigate our stress and give us a much better chance. And I think the other thing, I wrote this down because this year one of my mantras has been living life with no regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I may not have 100% control over whether or not I get breast cancer or any other kind of cancer again. Just like when I had the preventive surgeries, I knew it wasn't 100% decreasing my risk. And so what I've learned is I'm going to live with no regrets. And I feel like then if it comes back, I can say I did all the things that I wanted to do. I just came back from 2 trips with an 80-year-old friend of mine. We went to New York to celebrate her birthday and my 21-year-old daughter's birthday. And then we went to Costa Rica together we've been talking about this trip. And I think like, I'm no longer going to put off those things that are on my bucket list, because if it does come back, I'm going to say, I did all the things I wanted to do. And those are the things I have control over.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, such a healthier mindset than that, if it were to come back, I would say, well, why not me?
Right. Yeah.
And
I think what I love most is that you did the testing to see if you had the gene. And then you were aware of what maybe symptoms looked like. You paid attention. And so catching it at stage 1, you were ahead of the game the whole way through. And I think that helped you tremendously because it helped you focus on it and make sure it didn't get you.
Well, and I would say, though, that I'm not I'm not a typical person in that I wasn't doing screening. There's not really regular screening out there for those of us who have the gene mutations and have had preventive mastectomies. Some doctors would say you get an annual MRI. Some would say, oh, you just do a self-exam. So I was kind of in this nebulous group, and I actually wasn't doing regular checks, self-exams, or getting any regular screening. And I just happened to be lucky, and I don't know why, but on some Sunday morning, Labor Day weekend, I reached over and I found a lump. And I have no idea. I just feel like sometimes there's these universes telling you something or God moments or whatever they are. And I knew in my gut what it was and that I needed to do something about it. And I knew luckily as a physician, as a well-connected person, I knew, who I needed to call. I knew what I needed to do. I actually reached out to Force Facing a Risk of Cancer Empowered and got in touch with, I sent an email saying, hey, I used to volunteer for you and now I've got breast cancer. I need some direction. And the founder, Sue Friedman, is like, of course I remember who you are, Erin. Let me help you. And she helped me find the oncologist. I ended up getting my cancer care at Stanford because I wasn't typical. Right. I had BRCA. I'd had preventive surgery. Now I had breast cancer. And I wanted to make sure that I was seeing somebody who could deal with somebody that was as abnormal, as atypical as I am. Yeah. And, so part of it was luck. And, sometimes we just get busy, and again, as physicians, you'd think we'd be more diligent about our own health, but we get busy and then we let some of those things go by. Right. But it is a reminder that just because we take the steps doesn't mean that we are out of the woods.
Okay. Yeah, fair.
Well, and you said something that reminds me. It's just amazing. I was sitting and listening to Erin, and I've heard bits and pieces of your story, so I've heard a whole lot more today than I've heard in the past. But how much her mindset reminds me of Brenda's mindset. Right. Right? Because Brenda gets diagnosed in 2000. She got diagnosed in 2015, and by 2017, the numbers were all good. Things looked fine, even though it was metastatic. And she came to visit me at Christmas 2017, and we just had this wonderful conversation. She flies home, and it was January 2018, so almost 7 years ago, that I said, do you want to do this Warrior Dash? Okay, it's in Canby, 3 miles, 12 obstacles, muddy, feeling like an adventure. At that time, I was 57 and she was 54. So we weren't the youngest on the course, but it just sounded like a fun thing to do. Yeah. And so we got all done, and someone asked her, why did you do that? Like, that sounded kind of challenging. Right. Yeah. Because then we wanted to do a Spartan race. And she said, cancer didn't take me down. I'm not going to let the Spartan race take me down. Yeah. And she's coined this phrase I've used more than once. She says, I'm not afraid to die anymore. I just don't want to be my fault.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
She's not afraid of living either.
No. And she wants to live, right? Yeah. And at one point, her husband's like, well, why do you fly up to Oregon and do these Spartan races? They have them in Arizona. And she says, well, all my friends, all my support people are in Oregon, and I want to live while I'm alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and she's also taking control. And I was sharing with you during the break that one of the ways my sister took control when she was diagnosed, at 33 and again at 35, was she wanted to do some awareness walks and things like that. So she was supposed to participate in the first ever 3-day breast cancer walk, where you walk 20 miles a day, 60 miles in 3 days. And she was re-diagnosed. And so she went to the closing ceremony, but that was foreshadowing, because the very next year, she and myself and her future husband and our mom walked in the second 3-day breast cancer walk, which I think was in 1998.
And I would encourage the listeners, if you want to see pictures of that walk, go to YouTube on Monday. Okay. It will be on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. And my sister has since done, I think she's maybe done 17 of those walks. Oh, wow. I've done, I think, 9. My daughter at age 18 and her boyfriend joined us at a Chicago 3-day walk 2 years ago. Right. And we wear pink wings on our walks, and we get very pinked up, which is why we're all in pink today. And we decided to do something about it, not take a passive role. But she not only then started doing these breast cancer walks, inviting us to do them. We raised, when we counted up how many teams, because we had a team of 24 one year, a team of 40 something another year. We were the highest fundraisers
Wow.
one year with our teams. And when we did a news story many years ago, we had raised over $500,000 with our family and our teams
Wow.
against in the fight against cancer.
Yeah.
And it's such, I always say, like, fundraising runs in my blood, like nonprofits run in my blood. It's kind of addictive, and you meet the best people when you do these events. And then you can see my daughter and her 6'2" boyfriend dressed in pink wings and pink frilly pants. They were like little celebrities. They had such a good time, and they were.
I can't wait to see YouTube now.
Yeah,
This is gonna be so fun.
It was, and for me as a mom, my daughter has been raised with cancer. Her aunts had cancer, since the time she was born, and her mom, had that risk. She's been volunteering at the booths that we set up for fundraising and for selling. My sister sells Pink Ribbon products with her company, and so it's been part of her entire life. Yeah. And so to see her give up, this whole segment, 3 days, walk 20 miles a day. She had this horrible red rash on the back of her legs from the heat and the asphalt. And yet she did it. I was so, like, as a mom, I was so proud of those kids who we had the youngest on our team was my daughter's boyfriend at 17. And then we had George, who has done so many of these walks, and he was in his late 80s or early 90s walking. Wow. And so it was just this beautiful, beautiful display of all ages participating in this amazing walk to make a difference, because unfortunately, as talking to Barron about his sister's journey, the fight is not over. No. It's still very much with us, even as much as we've done to raise money and raise awareness and all the research that's going on.
Agreed.
Well, and when we did that first Wire Dash, Brenda flew home, and really it was going to end right there. And I called her and I said, what you're doing to stay alive, we could share that information with people. Yeah. And that's really how Kickin'Cancer started, was sharing what she was doing in Arizona to stay alive. And it's just evolved over time. But we said, how can we educate people on how to hopefully not get cancer? And again, there's no guarantees, but like, begin reducing your stress, learn to meditate, eat proper food, all that kind of stuff. But then there are still people right now that have cancer. And so we wanted to be a way to support locally. And I'm just thrilled that now we have Mickey up in Vancouver. We have a chapter in Vancouver. She's supporting those up in Vancouver. We're talking with somebody in Bend right now. We're talking with somebody in Eugene right now, that we can create more communities where they're doing the same thing. Yeah. They're educating and supporting, because this darn thing is not slowing down. So we want to slow it down, but we got to support those that are battling at the same time.
And educate. Yeah.
Well, I do know that I've used this phrase numerous times, that you have to save yourself and then each one teach one. Save yourself, then each one teach one. And one of the really great successes for me is to listen to Amanda talk about her husband.
Yeah.
Because we have this annual event, which, by the way, you'll get invited to next year because you're an honoree next year. But we bring all of our honorees together to meet our board and our staff and our major donors. And then we have a slideshow at the end of the people that we have supported through the year. And anyone that has passed, we honor them during the slideshow. And it just hit your husband so hard last year on how many passed that are his age.
Yeah. It scared him.
Well, he's not the same man that he was last year.
No, not even a little bit. I mean, this weekend I think I made 4 different batches of homemade creamer, because he was done with the chemicals after our last show. He was like, no more. Let's do homemade and play with the different flavors. Let's have fun with it. So we did. And he was just pushing it. And then it was like, okay, let's dog food. He was like, I want us all to be healthy.
Including the dogs.
He's like, I'm done feeding our bodies garbage, and just, I want to be healthy, and I want to live to my full potential.
Yeah.
And so, you've taught him so much.
And as you're talking about educating people, most people have been affected by cancer, if not themselves, but somebody they know. But until you've had that scare, for me, the scare was through my sister's journey, but it could fade away. But that importance for people before it hits, then what can they do? And I love that motivation by bringing awareness. And it's so powerful. And then the ripple effect, right? So if you're a parent, if you're a leader at your organization, if you're hanging out with your friends and talking about those things, then it spreads the message. And so that maybe you're going to have a positive impact on what those next steps are. You talking about making homemade dog food. I'm like, oh, I got an almost 13-year-old dog and we love him a lot. And I would love for him to be healthier. So maybe that's going to trigger me then and motivate me to start making homemade dog food. And I know I've already made a commitment now that I'm home after a month of traveling to start making more whole foods and doing more cooking at home, less processed.
Well, I know one of the things that is exciting for me is I sit here and I think what we're trying to accomplish, this is going to take a long time. We need to change a younger generation's thinking.
Yes.
Well, Ashley's kids have changed their thinking.
I love that
to the point that they're like, Mom, you can't buy that anymore.
You can't eat that. That's the bad stuff.
And that's how we make change is we have to think about food differently.
Yeah.
Right? Because we are what we eat, except our food system in the United States is killing us. And so we have to look at food differently. And that's where I just love that our show is making an impact on that direction.
Oh, no, truly. And I think that us having conversation, like my husband and I talking about it in front of the children, they're like, okay, because the other day my nephew was like, well, let's see what's in my macaroni and cheese. And he opted to make homemade mac and cheese instead of using his boxed mac and cheese. And so it's funny how it... Yeah, so it's cute how it, if we're open about it and just have those genuine conversations about what we're nervous about, on why it's important to us, and then the children then hear it and see us making those changes, that they can do it themselves.
And seeing you role model, not just talk about it, because they're more likely to follow what you do than what you say. And so demonstrating, and maybe they're not going to do it right away, but planting those seeds and then continuing, and then also sharing what's the difference. How do we feel? The year that I had breast cancer, I ate so healthy, gave up bread, gave up milk products, gave up sugar. I gave up coffee for a little while. And I tell you what, my body felt like $1 million. I'm like, I need to get back to that really clean eating. So.
My dad just got, he's got high blood pressure, and it's a new thing, and it's scaring him. And he's like, I'm not taking the medication. He was like, please tell me what I need to do naturally to help this, please. And it was like, okay. So he's listening to me talk too. And so it's really cool how we can influence and impact
ripple
everybody around us. Yes, it's a snowball effect.
It is.
In a positive way.
Well, she has a title of Segue Queen. And you just done a great job of segueing into our timeline item.
Oh, perfect.
Amanda and I met when I decided to do the polar plunge for a young man named Michael Brown. Michael, at 4, Michael had gotten a brain tumor. To get the brain tumor out, they used radiation and chemotherapy. He did beat it, but now he's 36. Mentally, he's about 14, right? So he qualifies for Special Olympics. And so I did the polar plunge with Michael, and that's how she and I met. Michael became one of our go teams, but he wanted to do something more than just the plunge. And Michael loves to play golf. Loves to play golf. Our next go team after that was a gal named Sandy Thornton. We'll get more into her story in a future episode. But Sandy was in an awful battle with blood cancer. And so we organized what's called a Play It For, F-O-R-E, Play It Forward golf tournament. And that was Michael's way of kicking off something for Sandy. Michael wanted to find some way to help Sandy.
Yes.
Right? And so Michael, brain cancer is gray, but blood cancer is orange. There's a lot of orange shirts for sale at that golf tournament. And we used what's called a horse race format, which means that there's 2 players, but 1 ball. So Michael hit the ball, and then his dad, his partner, had to go. He had to where the ball went. And so you go back, forth, back, forth. It's a very fast way to play. But it was just so amazing that here's Michael, and you've met Michael. He's got for a guy in his 30s. He has a huge heart. He said, how can I help the next go team? And he says, can we still do a golf tournament? I said, sure. So we did a Play It Forward golf tournament, and everything that happened went towards Sandy. We did it in Dallas, which is where Sandy lived. And there was a lot of orange shirts available for Sandy. And Michael just wanted to find a way to help somebody else who was going through that cancer journey.
I love that. He's got such a big soul.
Yeah.
He does. That's
so
awesome.
That our timeline item was literally the golf tournament that Michael asked me to organize for Sandy.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, Erin, thank you so much for joining the show.
Yes.
It is still December, but anyone who goes to Kicking Cancer on Facebook next month, the profile picture will actually be Erin.
Okay.
We're going to honor Erin's story.
Probably
Perfect.
wearing some pink wings.
Or some pink wings.
I love it. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming in. And you guys, if you want to sponsor, again, we're looking for a sponsor for the second half of the show. Just email me, amanda@kslm.news, and we'll go from there. All right, we'll be back next week
As the movement continues.